I came in and we'd not really had any digital strategy before. I don't think I've ever been so nervous in my entire life. A lot of law firms say that they're people driven, great place to work, all this, but actually they don't really have anything to back that up. A lot of businesses still use social media as like a push marketing tool, and it's very much like the equivalent of someone putting junk mail through your letterbox and expecting a response, because no one's really interested, let's be honest. People
Yeah.
hire people. Just because you've been doing digital marketing for a long time, or just because you worked in law firms for a decade, you don't actually know it all.
On today's episode, I have Michelle Hughes, who's the head of digital marketing for the law firm Higgs. We discuss digital marketing in depth, so what the firm's doing, how they've grown over the last few years, as well as we even do a bit of a deep dive into LinkedIn, because the firm Higgs actually does a lot within LinkedIn. So it should be a really great episode if you're looking to get more out of your digital marketing. This is the Eardley Bird podcast with me, Oliver Eardley, and of course, it's always powered by Eardley. Okay, so Michelle, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you for asking. Where I'd like to start is I'd like to learn a bit more about Higgs, the company, and your role there. So I was wondering if you could start there and talk us through it.
Yeah, sure. So Higgs is sort of a medium-sized law firm, full service, based in the Black Country, which is sort of North Birmingham. I look after, my job title is head of digital marketing, and I look after, as the title would suggest, all the digital comms for Higgs. So that's looking at things like brand, SEO, paid media, social media, and a lot of content. And obviously with the emergence of AI, that's suddenly become a huge part of my role in terms of how we can utilize it effectively.
hmm Okay, so that's interesting. So your role as head of digital marketing doesn't just encompass straight up marketing, but it also uses, bits of AI, or is it AI specific just to marketing?
At the moment, it is sort of just to marketing. I mean, a
Okay.
lot of it at this stage is experimenting, isn't it? So I'm sure if people have seen some of my LinkedIn posts, they'll think that has got nothing to do with marketing. That's just you playing, which is absolutely true. Um, but it's some of it is learning how to use the different tools, but to
hmm
make us more efficient as a team. So one of the
hmm
things I'm doing at the moment is looking at workflows. So
Sure.
I think we all start off, we'll go on to ChatGPT, tends to be the main one that people think of, and you think AI, you think ChatGPT. So they'll go to
hmm
ChatGPT, they'll write a really small prompt, and they'll be really disappointed with the output.
hmm
So what I've been doing is experimenting with prompt writing, but
hmm
also utilizing different tools to create a workflow.
hmm
So it's what I have quickly learned is actually if you just stick to one tool and one platform, you don't get a great output. But what you can do is get the outputs of one tool, put it into the next tool, and then
hmm
suddenly you've got something that's quite usable. So
Yeah.
at the moment, it's mainly looking at it from a content point of view, how we
hmm
can utilize AI to make our content go further,
hmm
because you've got things like on our site we've got some fantastic guides that the lawyers have written, but obviously not everybody likes to consume content in the written word, so it's
Yeah.
how can we use AI to
hmm
turn that into a podcast or a video or an animation or something, so that we've
hmm
got all those different touch points covered. So that's
Yeah.
really what at the moment I'm using AI for.
hmm
But obviously around the business, AI is on everybody's agenda, so
hmm
different teams are using it for different things, or at least researching it for different things.
Yeah, I really like that. So you're almost taking the approach there of using almost the already created long form content that you have, and using that, how that can be potentially split up or reformatted in different ways. That's interesting. Yeah. So yeah, that's really a different way of looking at it. So where I'd like to discuss now is about the growth of the firm for the last few years since you've been there. I was wondering if you could talk us through that and what really you guys have done to grow.
So I've been with Higgs for just over 2 years now. So I started in January 2023. We have grown, as the figures show, and a lot of what we've done, certainly from a marketing point of view, is I came in and we'd not really had any sort of digital strategy before. We'd sort of done some of the kind of tick boxes. Did we have a LinkedIn account? Absolutely. Were we posting on it? Yes. But we were just using it very much for push marketing. So a lot of what I've come in and done is sort of look at the overall strategy and worked
Mm-hmm.
out how digital tools and digital marketing can actually help the business to grow. So my kind of key projects were sort of like, I remember I'd only been here probably 2 or 3 months, and I was sort of pulled together the strategy or the plan, and then was stood in front of all the partners presenting. I don't think I've ever been so nervous in my entire life, because you just want everybody to go, that's great, Michelle, off you go, crack on. Of course, inevitably, that's not quite what happens. But yeah, so one of the first things was I sort of came in and said, you don't really have a brand. And everybody sort of looks at me a bit gone out, because obviously a brand to the vast majority of people is a logo. And they're like, well, clearly we've got a logo. So one of the biggest things was to actually really define our brand, because the culture at Higgs is quite different, I think, to a lot of law firms. A lot of law firms say that they're people driven, great place to work, all this, but actually they don't really have anything to back that up. It's more of a marketing strapline. Whereas at Higgs, we do genuinely have a really fantastic culture. So it was trying to pull that together, and we worked with a branding agency to really sort of, and all sorts of stakeholders. So from across the business, external people, so clients, contacts, suppliers, people who refer work into us, and also the community. We do quite a bit around the sort of local area. We support a charity each year. So to get everybody's view on Higgs and what Higgs actually is and who we are. So pulling that project together has really, really helped with our growth in terms of, if you look at, I've got some stats that I can pull from, sort of search engine tools that show this huge increase in people actually searching for our brand. So one of the kind of key things I think that's been sort of certainly helping with the growth, and will continue to help with the growth, is that people actually know who Higgs are now. And I think that became really apparent when Sophie, the HR director, and I went down to an event in London, and we were there with some really big law firms, that almost everybody's heard of. And we sort of walked in as little old Higgs, and people knew who we were straight away. They knew who we were, and they knew who Higgs were. So I think that's been really sort of instrumental from a marketing point of view in terms of helping the growth. And the other kind of main project was relaunching the website. So, and that was built to sort of really generate inquiries, and position the new brand properly. Obviously, what you can't really, what you could, I suppose, but what you shouldn't really do is have your new shiny brand, which really does give people a real feel for who you are, and then try and sort of paste it on top of a website that doesn't actually fit those values. If we're saying we're all about building relationships, there's no way you can do anything on the current website. So so we built a new website, and that's actually starting to generate inquiries for us. So they're probably the two key marketing things that we've done in the last 2 years to sort of help drive a business growth.
So you reworked the brand, made it clearer as to what your values were. How did you present that, other than the website? So obviously you redesigned the website to be in line with that. How else did you get that out to people? Or was it just sort of natural? It'd be interesting to hear.
Some of it's quite natural, and a lot of it is because of LinkedIn. So we've had a whole LinkedIn strategy, and again, it was something that I sort of presented to the partners when I first started, that we were using, and a lot of, and not just within the legal space, to be honest, a lot of businesses still use social media as like a push marketing tool. Which, interestingly, I was just been having a conversation about this with the rest of the marketing team, and it's very much like the equivalent of someone putting junk mail through your letterbox and expecting a response. And it's like, well, yes, I picked up that junk leaflet, but that doesn't mean I engaged with it. So it's that. So one of the key things was, right, let's flip this on its head. It's meant to be a social network, so let's get social. And let's actually start to network with people. Let's treat it like a networking event, a face-to-face networking event, and actually get to know people. So you'll have seen perhaps that we've sort of dominated the LinkedIn legal influencers chart table that Simon Marshall and his team do. We've sort of dominated it this quarter. And it's sort of been by design, although it has organically grown. Obviously these things don't happen overnight, so we've had a few people that sort of started doing it immediately, and it's grown and grown and grown. I think now we're getting more and more of our team feeling quite comfortable in talking about their roles and talking about Higgs and the brand, and that's really, really helped to certainly raise awareness of who we are.
So you mentioned a LinkedIn strategy there and treating it like a networking event, which I really like that approach. What specifically then would you say that the team have been doing? Could you talk us through the physical, work that they do on the platform?
Yeah, so it really depends who we're working with within the building as to how comfortable people are. Some
Sure.
people still see LinkedIn as very much an online CV and a very serious business networking tool, which I think it's moved on drastically.
Yeah.
And my argument when I'm talking to people is always, well, you wouldn't walk into a face-to-face networking event and start quoting case law at people because you'd clear the room. I mean, the room would be empty within minutes. You'd probably talk about, if you're introducing yourself to a cold contact, you'd start talking about your family or your holidays or your hobbies or something, that general kind of chit-chat. And you get to know people at a personal level. And particularly with the law, obviously lawyers are technical experts. That's sort of a given. So if I've got a property litigator sat in front of me and another, what's there to differentiate? So what we've tried to do, and is to allow our people to be themselves. Higgs is really good at celebrating individuals, and the collective. Obviously, we are a team, and we are a really good team. So you'll see some of our team will post really quite strange links to Shrek. Was the one that went live yesterday, and property litigation. That's Pete for you. But it's great because actually what you get from that post is you learn a little bit about property litigation, but more importantly, what you see is some of Pete's personality. He's got a cracking sense of humour, and that comes across. So we've really encouraged people to stay within their comfort zone. At no point have we forced anybody to do anything. We do encourage, and we'll help people who want to get involved. But it's really about just be yourself, stay within your comfort zone, show us a bit whatever you're comfortable with in terms of your life, your sense of humour, how you. It's that's been the approach really. It's to sort of step away from that. Here's an article I wrote on my blog. Here's a repost of some Higgs content, because no one's really interested. Let's be honest. People buy from people, and that's so we sort of flipped it around.
Yeah, I really like that. It's almost personality first is the approach, but the way I always see the best performing people that I see on LinkedIn typically are the ones that deliver a lot of personality, but then almost shoehorn a little bit of what they do in there. So it's clear what they do, but the majority of it is their personality. So I really like the way you guys are approaching it. Do you have anything like rigid in place, like you have to post amount of times a week, or is it really just whenever you want?
It's sort of whatever you want, and we kind of give people guidelines in terms of if you want to achieve this, there's you'll get more engagement if you post consistently, which is just sort of a fact really. But what we also try and do, I think what Simon Marshall has created is absolutely brilliant. He's got the whole legal community talking. But what you also get is lawyers tend to be, not to generalise, but they tend to be quite competitive people. So they suddenly want to be in the table. And so I keep saying to people, well, it's great. It's great. And I love what Simon's created. But sometimes it sort of skews things slightly because they're so focused on being in the table that they forget that actually you've got this silent consumer who might not want to engage with the post publicly, but they're actually watching what they're posting. And Kirsty, one of our lawyers, she's works in this sort of charity law space, and she did actually make it into the table this time. But what she's doing is she might not be generating as many views and as much engagement as other people in our team, but she's actually generating inquiries, which is arguably more important. So what we try and do is let people do within reason. Obviously we have to stick with the SRA guidelines, but within reason we sort of say do what you're comfortable with. If you want to post once a week, that's brilliant, but try and be consistent. So just if once a week is your goal, just stick with once a week. Tend to post it roughly the same time, same day, and people start to expect to see your content. And then we've got other people around the firm who post every single day, and it's entirely up to them.
Perfect. And I think it's obviously working for you guys because I can see quite a few of the people within Higgs are really popular on LinkedIn. So I presume they're all getting inquiries and opportunities from that work. Would it be right in saying that?
Yeah, I think everybody on the list, even myself, bizarrely, I managed to get an inquiry, and obviously I'm not a lawyer, so so
Yeah.
even some people, if they haven't got a direct, inquiry, what they are getting is opportunities where we'll have, magazines contact us for comment,
Hmm.
or would you
Yeah,
write an
yeah,
article on this, or would you join a podcast? So we're
hmm,
getting other opportunities to sort of really showcase, raise everybody's profile,
yeah,
showcase
yeah.
what Higgs is about. So it's certainly opening a lot of doors for us.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that route as well. From almost becoming a personality on LinkedIn gives you those sort of digital PR opportunities to get backlinks, get authority towards the overall business. So that's probably an under talked about area of building a personal brand on LinkedIn. So outside of LinkedIn, then, so you've got your new website, you got the LinkedIn. Is there anything else that you guys have done to get that new brand out there?
Not specifically with the brand as such. I think the brand and the opportunities on LinkedIn, and we are doing some digital PR as well. Not
Hmm.
specifically on the brand, but sort of the combination of everything means that
Hmm.
we're naturally getting more inquiries and more
Sure.
opportunities to to speak at events. So we'll get inquiries asking for our lawyers to speak at events. We've had inquiries from journalists. Will we comment on an article?
Hmm.
So Nairi, one of our property litigators, her comments, were in the Times. Our medical negligence team are often, asked for quotes and things. So as a whole, all the different strands, pulling them together has just,
Hmm.
as I say, has opened loads and loads of doors for us, and that's
Yeah.
what's really helping. And of course, the more we're in these places, the more it drives the brand. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's all coming together nicely.
Sure. So, talking about the overall digital strategy, then, so that obviously LinkedIn's quite a key component. Do you do anything on other social platforms, or are you running email campaigns or any advertising campaigns? What else is the business doing?
So we don't tend to use any other social media platforms particularly. We
Hmm.
do post our community type content on
Hmm.
Facebook. We actually have quite
Sure.
a lot of Facebook followers. We made a conscious decision to stop using. I'm still going to call it Twitter. It's because otherwise people think I've lost the plot. But X,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
we sort of the account is still open because we do sort of
Mm.
keep an eye on it, because we do find that journalists occasionally still post on there looking for sort of
Yeah.
journalist requests. But it's not really something that we use.
Hmm.
Instagram, to be honest, the content was so out of date when I arrived, and it's just another channel to add to the noise, that we decided to stop doing that for now. So
Yeah.
we've really got our two social channels, though we do actually post to Google Business as well, just because it helps with the
Hmm.
search engine stuff, and just shows that it's an active profile. So we do post some things on there.
Yeah.
But we made a really conscious decision that actually, right, let's get one channel right,
Yeah.
do it really, really well, so it just becomes this well-oiled machine, and
Hmm.
then we'll start and look at other social media channels. So,
Hmm.
sort of in my objectives for this year is very much to start and look at TikTok. It seems to be the one that
Yeah.
a lot of other law firms use.
Hmm.
But to be honest, yeah, it's really, let's just focus on the one and get that right.
Hmm.
In terms of other channels, search engine optimization is sort of a key one for us.
Hmm.
We generate inquiries, inbound inquiries through
Hmm.
the search engines, paid media
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm.
Again, just what's really nice is now we've got this really flexible website. Is we can actually do like A/B split testing on the landing pages, and we're
Yeah.
working with a fantastic freelancer who manages our PC accounts for us.
Hmm.
So between us, we're sort of working out exactly what is working and what isn't. So that's
Hmm.
working really well for us.
Hmm.
And Jo in the marketing team, she's sort of started with us 7, 8 months ago now,
Hmm.
and she's sort of a content expert really, and she's working a lot with the teams on regular email newsletters.
Perfect.
And we're also looking at LinkedIn again. We do like our LinkedIn, mainly because we know it works.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're actually looking at LinkedIn newsletters as well as a way
Perfect.
to reach a
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
audience. And the reason we've sort of done that is everybody's email inboxes are so full of spam all the time. I mean, I must
Yeah.
delete more emails than I read these days.
Hmm.
Obviously, for me, it's always agencies. Every agency in the Sun wants to work with a law firm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I just, if I haven't seen them on LinkedIn and I don't know who they are, it's delete, delete, delete.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we thought, well, if we're doing that, so are the people that we're emailing, let's be honest, because it's just email overwhelm, isn't it? So we've started looking at, and we haven't actually launched it yet, but the sort of next thing on the agenda is LinkedIn newsletters, because it doesn't give us any GDPR issues, for one. But these are going to be active subscribers that want to see the content. So that's something that we're looking at for later on this year.
Yeah, because with the LinkedIn newsletters, it does come up as an email and on your LinkedIn if you set it there to do so. So yeah, that's a really interesting route. I think overall, it's a really well-rounded strategy. If we look at all these different bits and bobs, one thing that you mentioned as well, which is a tip for anyone listening for X. Obviously, X isn't really a platform that I tend to use anymore. But for journo requests, it can be a good thing for digital PR, for a free way of getting those opportunities to put an expert comment in a publication.
And we have, I mean, not regularly, don't get me wrong, but we have had an odd, we've spotted one that's come through, and it does tend to be the hashtag journo request. So, and you can obviously follow that hashtag. So, and we tend to see more journo requests through Twitter than the likes of Facebook. We do actually get journo requests coming directly into our inboxes now as well, which is always really nice. I know I've had them, Joe's had them, wanting to speak to particular team members. And again, it tends to be that they've either seen something out in the press where one of our team has already commented, or they've seen something on LinkedIn. So we get, some of the lawyers get requests directly into their LinkedIn inbox about, can you help us with this?
Yeah, it's perfect because obviously all those journalists are looking for these people, and if the more visible you are, and usually LinkedIn's the most obvious one for a law firm, right? That's probably where you'd look. So yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. So you've got, I'm just going to read out some of the other ones. So Google My Business page, so posting on there regularly to keep it active and show Google that you're basically open for business is going to allow you to be found locally. Perfect. Love that. SEO, so using the general sort of SEO strategy to get more leads. Perfect. You mentioned PPC. So would you say PPC is working for you as a law firm?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's working for us mainly because we've experimented. We're driving enough traffic to the site now that we can actually, I use the word play around, which is probably not particularly strategic, is it? But we sort of we can actually test things now. So we've, when we started, and we still are testing. So sometimes we'll put something live for a month. We'll drive loads of traffic to the landing page and it doesn't convert, so we start and look at that. The next time we'll start and convert, but they're not the people that we want, or they're not at the right stage of the journey to actually need a lawyer yet. So when first started, we were using a different agency and they were driving loads and loads of inquiries for us, but actually it wasn't the people we wanted. It was, they weren't ready to. They were still at the research. They were at the informational stage rather than the buying stage. Whereas what we've done now is we sort of honed it down, and we can pretty much work out who's actually looking for a lawyer, who knows they're going to have to pay, which which sounds quite mercenary, I know, but ultimately it's because we started off and we were getting loads of inquiries, but everybody wanted free advice, and obviously we can't offer free advice to everybody. So we have changed the strategy and the approach to make it really clear, because we don't want to waste people's time. We don't want them to put all this effort into getting in touch with us for us to say, well, we can't help anyway, or that. So we do make it really clear now on our landing pages, so we don't get as many inquiries, but the inquiries will get a good quality. And a lot of that, and this is, I think, the beauty of digital, and it's why I love what I do, is there's so much data. There's actually too much data, to be honest, some days. You don't know what to do with it. You don't know which bit's actually relevant. But there's so much data to help you inform your decisions and inform your strategy. And it just changes constantly. So every document that we have in the marketing team, we all say it's a live document, because we're constantly changing it depending on what we've learned from a previous campaign, or what we've learned from a different team. And sometimes you apply this, and we all do this, don't we, because we're all time poor. It's this, we have this broad brush approach, and you sort of think, well, that worked for the corporate team, so we'll apply the same logic to this team, and then it doesn't work, and you have to go back and analyze why. And it's very much what we have found, again, looking at data and what works and what doesn't, even in terms of our sort of Google rankings, is to look at the data and go team by team, page by page. So whereas when I first started, in digital marketing, it wasn't called digital marketing. It was, I can't remember whether it was internet marketing or e-marketing, and it was just before the dot-com boom.
Sure.
So, and you could just apply this logic to your site, and you'd get onto the Yahoo directory as it was. But even when real SEO started to kick in, you could just, you could do this and you could do that, and you'd rank. It was
Yeah,
reasonably easy.
yeah.
But the intricacies of it now, I was down at Brighton SEO on Friday, and the
Oh, were you?
intricacies, it
Yeah.
just goes, it's just wow, it's absolutely mind blowing. And I think if you take SEO as one element, you have to apply the same level of detail and analysis to every element of your marketing.
Yeah.
And I know Joe's found this when she's doing the email marketing. You look at the open rates for some teams and you think, brilliant, we've nailed that, we know how to do it. And then you send out something really similar to a different mailing list for a different team and the subject line hasn't worked. So always go back to the data.
What's interesting about what you just said there, and it's not something that everyone would consider if you're just working with a law firm, but you separated out each individual team to have their own email marketing list. How did you build that marketing list to begin with? Did you do campaigns to build the list, or is it just people that you've got previous inquiries with? How did that work?
It's ongoing, to be honest. So some are clients, obviously. So we've got our client list. We've also got contacts that the lawyers have within their particular sort of sector or specialism. And they've got lots of referrers, intermediaries, business partners. So a lot of it's sort of internal work and using people's personal contacts. What we're now starting to do via the website is you can sign up for, there's actually a sort of logged in area to our website now. You can add articles to your reading list. You can sign up for alerts, very much like on a job site. So, if you're interested in this property dispute article, sign up. We'll send you the emails. So we're starting to gather data from other sources. But at the moment, it's predominantly sort of contacts of individuals within Higgs.
Perfect. The other thing you mentioned was about A and B testing. So that's obviously quite an important part of it when you're running things like PPC campaigns. So how does that tend to look for you guys? How have you found the difference since you've started doing that?
It's actually quite surprising because sometimes, particularly the latest thing we did, sort of an A/B split test, was on our landing pages for the PPC, and I was absolutely convinced that this new landing page I'd created was far better than the old one. It's sort of, and I'd sort of got my SEO hat on at the time. I was thinking, right, well, it matches the user intent. It's very clear what we do. It's sort of bullet points. You can get all the information really quickly. And I was convinced it was a better page, absolutely convinced. If you'd have asked me to stake my house on it, I possibly would have done. And I was wrong. And I think that's it's a really key lesson that just because you've been doing digital marketing for a long time, or just because you worked in law firms for a decade, you don't actually know it all. And it's grounding. It's really grounding. No, it is. It's actually really good because we all do it, don't we? You sort of go, oh, well, that works because that's the way I consume content. And that's the thing sometimes, isn't it? It's like, go back to what your users want. Don't make any assumptions. And we all like content in different ways. I obviously, doing the job I do, people assume that I like videos online. I never watch videos online. I'd much rather have a written document and read it. So it's, I think the thing that we've learned doing our testing is don't make any assumptions. Actually test it because once you're generating enough traffic, or you've got enough of subscribers to your email list, you can actually get the data reasonably quickly. So you don't need to guess. And it's been quite surprising actually. Some of the results from the tests have been quite surprising.
It's a very good point because it's you always want to rely on the data because at the end of the day, like you said, sometimes you're wrong, and it's the same with me. I said 100% this is going to be the best version of a page, and then it doesn't always go in the way you think it's going to go. So again, another reason why I love digital is the fact that there is always the data to fall back on. You can always look, as long as you've got all the tracking in place and you've got all the right stuff in place, you should be able to find out what's what pretty quickly, especially if you've got pages that have a reasonable amount of traffic. That's probably the key thing here, really. If you're going to look at A and B testing, maybe someone listening to this, make sure you've got enough traffic, or else there's probably not worth spending the time and effort doing all that work if you've only got like 100 people coming to the page.
Absolutely.
So really well-rounded strategy there. So what would be great to learn about now is really what the goal is for the next year, and what you're looking at, and what you're going to be improving on. I know you mentioned LinkedIn newsletters, which you'd be interested to hear a bit more about that, but what else are we doing?
So a lot of it is doing what we're currently doing, but in all honesty, doing it better.
Hmm.
And again, it's learning from the data. It's rejigging budgets to concentrate on different areas.
Hmm.
So we're carrying on with the SEO, but we're sort of
Hmm.
making improvements to that. So
Hmm.
some of what you will see live on the website at the moment is what was there to get the site live.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's accurate, but it's not necessarily written user first. It's also
Sure.
not written for the search engines either. It's sort of,
Yeah.
and it's doing okay, and it's bringing in inquiries, but it could work far harder for us.
Hmm.
So that's going to be one of the key areas, is to look at
Hmm.
that and make our website work harder for us, really, because it's actually a
Yeah.
really good site, and we do generate
Hmm.
quite a bit of traffic now. But there's more it could do in terms of
Hmm.
generating inquiries. So
Sure.
that's a really key focus for us.
Hmm.
We're going to be looking at paid media for different areas, because again, what we've found is sometimes we think because again, it depends on your budget, doesn't it? But
Mm.
sometimes you think, oh, that's a really good idea, and we'll try that with paid media, and we can experiment with paid media before we try it with other areas sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
So for some of our teams, we've tried a campaign and it hasn't worked, or we've tried
Mm.
a campaign and it's generated an awful lot of inquiries, but as I say, they're not the right inquiries.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but we're looking at that. So we're continually looking at that, to be honest, and
Hmm.
looking at other teams to work with, other search terms, what's actually going to generate inquiries for us.
Sure.
The LinkedIn newsletters is going to be something new for us, and at the moment it's still in the stages of we're sort of debating whether to do it as Higgs or whether to do it as individuals.
Sure.
So that's sort of in the pipeline, and will be live on someone's account within the
Yeah.
next sort of 3 to 6 months, really. And it may be that we try again looking at the data.
Mm.
I think what we'll probably do is we'll go live with a Higgs version that will be
Mm.
attached to the brand account, and we'll actually get some key people around the business to have their own newsletters as well. And
Yeah.
my current thoughts is that the individuals will get more engagement, but again, the data may well prove me wrong, and I'm
Yeah.
happy with that. I'm happy to be proved wrong. Always happy to be proved wrong. And then, as I say, AI is going to be. You can't.
Mm.
I'm not actually that nervous about AI. I don't think it's going to take my job, or certainly not yet. But
Mm.
I do think if marketeers don't learn how to use it effectively to
Mm.
help them with their job, I think they're going to struggle. To be honest, they're really going to
Mm.
struggle, and I actually think they're missing an opportunity because you can make things so much quicker. And one of the things that we've actually done is we record podcasts as well with one of our lawyers, James, and we need to put it on our website. Obviously, I want to make it as accessible as possible, so I've got my transcript. It's
Mm.
reading a transcript is not the most exciting thing, so
Yeah.
I've actually got AI to edit the transcript and summarize what the podcast is
Mm.
about.
Yeah, yeah.
To ask Joe to write that for me would take her, I mean, just hours. You've got an hour's worth of potential
Yeah, yeah.
footage to listen to. Whereas AI, 3 minutes later, I've got something that I can scan read,
Mhm.
and it's fine. So I think AI is going to be huge for us,
Mm.
as I say, in terms of that content production and just giving us more opportunity to get helpful content out there for people
Yeah.
in a format that they want.
Mhm. Yeah, I suppose it's about using it in a way to enhance what you're doing and make it so you can focus more on editing and getting it really well done, rather than just spending hours and hours and hours and hours more on bits of content that might not land, right? As we all know. One thing you mentioned, actually, I'll go back to it quickly. You mentioned about guides before,
Yeah.
and I kind of skirted over that. So I just want to quickly jump back to it. So how do you use your guides within the firm?
At the moment, so we've asked a couple of the teams to write guides. So one of my kind of key parts of my role is doing content research for the
Hmm.
teams. So we look, and this is sort of with Joe in our team. So Joe comes at it from more of a traditional marketing point of view. So she
Mm.
looks at opportunities for thought leadership,
Hmm.
Claire in the team looks at it as opportunities for speaker events or actual events at Higgs. I come at it more from obviously a digital point of view, like what might get us traffic from the search engines, what might get us interactions on LinkedIn. But the guides at the moment are all sort of long form written guides. And they're great, but if you go into, like, I use Grammarly all the time. You go in, Grammarly tells you how long it would take someone to read you. And some of these are 10-minute read times. I think, well, nobody in their right mind is going to read that. As interesting as it may be, you're just not, are you? So one of the things is to look at, to take the guides that we've got, it is really good content, but put it in a way that allows everybody to benefit from it, I guess. So we're looking at ways, and this is where I think AI can help. You see, I think AI can help. We'll take one piece of content, and it's also helps with the lawyers' time, because obviously they're busy, really, really busy. So when I'm going at them like, can I have 2,000 words on this, or can you write, here's your content outline, could you cover off these headings, please? It takes them a long time. Whereas actually, if I can take that one piece of content that they've produced and turn it into 3 or 4 other things that give me what I need to do my job, but give them a bit of their time back, then that's sort of got to be a positive thing, really.
Yeah. And I really like guides. I think it's a great way of getting people engaged. And we have a similar thing to you, where it's like we created the beginning of last year, I think it was about a 35-page long SEO guide for law firms. And guess what feedback we got? This is we don't have the time. This is too long. I really like some of the information in here, but it's can you make it a lot more concise? So yeah, I agree with you there. I think it's about using it and almost splitting it up into more digestible sort of chunks. Okay, perfect. And in terms of marketing then, just for other law firms or maybe accountancy firms, any relevant sort of professional service business, what would be your sort of top 3 things to focus on from a digital marketing perspective today? What would you say?
I'd say my first port of call with any digital strategy is to make sure your foundation is right, because you can make all the noise in the world across social media, but if people come, ultimately the chances are a lot of people are going to hear all the noise, you hope, or see what you're pushing out there, and they're going to come back to your website. And if your website doesn't showcase you and your brand in the way that it should, my personal view is that the rest of your strategy tends to fall apart. And I would say the same about your brand. And your brand should be authentic. And I think this is where a lot of businesses fall down, is their brands are not authentic. So if you're putting messages out there saying that you're a fantastic employer, and then people go to Glassdoor and see that really is not the case, your brand falls apart. So, and it's fine. That's fine. Just don't talk about that element. Find
totally,
your unique aspect. That's the key. Find what's really unique about you. So, yeah, my first things would always be make sure your brand and your website actually represent you the way they should. And once you've got that sorted, I would look in terms of digital tactics. For professional services, I think people are missing a trick if they're not encouraging their individuals, their lawyers, their accountants to actually use LinkedIn. I think they're really missing about. And the rest is sort of carry on what you're doing, but do it better. And look at your data. Look at your data, find out what's working, what's not, and don't keep. It's really easy sometimes to get into the churn. We're all quite time poor, I think, and we're quite a small marketing team, so we tend to be really reactive. So it's like, that's done, that's on the website, let's get that out, that's done, we've done it, tick, tick, tick. Whereas sometimes you need to just take that step back and say, right, and this is where, this content piece hopefully will allow us, give us a little bit more breathing space in terms of let's do things that are making a difference rather than doing them for the sake of doing them. So I think, the rest is, I don't think there's anything necessarily groundbreaking that people really need to focus on. I'd say just look at your data and do what you do, but do it better.
Perfect. So what you said there was website and brand, first of all, make sure essentially you've got your foundations in place. If people are going to look at you, it needs to be authentic. It needs to reflect your brand properly, which I love. Second of all, you said sort of LinkedIn, it could be an area that people are just missing the trick on at the moment. There's a lot of opportunity there. Everyone that I've spoken to in the legal space and accounting space have said, LinkedIn works wonders for them and they get opportunity from it. So yeah, it must be working. And then last one is data. So pretty much double down on what's working for you and actually look at what can be optimized, improved, but at the same time use your data wisely.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's one thing, and probably throughout my career, to be honest, it's probably one thing that I've sometimes sort of, I suppose, turned a bit of a blind eye to. And it's because there's so much to do that you're so busy doing that you forget to reflect. And actually, when you take the time to reflect on what has and hasn't worked, it just makes you more focused. And actually, then you start to get better results. And once people see that you're getting the results, they give you a bit more breathing space. In terms of what to do next. They sort of, and it's one of the things I'm often asked is how do you get lawyers on board? And it's normally with not like a written case study or something, but it's more that I'm a huge fan of a pilot. I always go, right, let me do a pilot on this. Let me give me 3 months. Give me 3 months to prove to you that this is going to work. And that's where obviously the data really comes in. I think, so your data can help not only with your marketing, but also getting buy-in from across the firm. Because if you can prove with one team or one person that this approach has worked, then you'll find that pretty much everybody, or certainly more people, are open to trying it for their teams or their practice area. So again, data is really, really key.
Yeah, I love that, and I guess that's probably the hardest part of getting people on LinkedIn is partners and people within the firm saying, yeah, I don't really want to get myself on video or whatnot, but yeah, there's definitely advantages to trying it, see if it works for yourself.
There are, and I just think and because it does fit with our kind of clear values and the way Higgs is and our brand and everything else, is we always encourage, we never sort of force. So there's nothing anywhere in our policy that says you have to post on LinkedIn, and we would never make anybody do it. But it's sort of this, if we can show it has worked for other people, and so far nobody in our team has said that they want to do videos on LinkedIn. And to be perfectly honest, I do not blame them. So at no point have I said, but if you do this, it will really help, because it might really help. But actually, what's more important to me is that they're comfortable with what they're doing. So it is, we always encourage, and what we can do is tell them, like we follow, obviously I follow loads of people on LinkedIn, and I learn so much from LinkedIn, so much. And so I can kind of keep up with what's happening with different algorithms, because I don't personally have to do it. I could just read, other people have thankfully done it for me, and I read their posts and I think, brilliant, I'll pass that on. So we know that video is doing really well at the moment, but no one feels comfortable doing it. So that's fine. We'll find another way.
Perfect. So I think that's a really great place to sort of wrap it up there, Michelle, because I think ending on the sort of top 3 things to focus on is a good place, so people can leave this podcast thinking, yeah, that's what I'm going to work on next. So if people listening to this want to get in touch with you or even the firm, what's the best way of getting and doing that?
But I'd say LinkedIn, wouldn't I? I have to. But no, it probably is LinkedIn, because to be perfectly honest, if people email me, there's a high chance it'll be deleted. And if they call me, if they call my personal number, I don't know where they get their information from. LinkedIn, apparently. When I asked the other day, obviously find any of our lawyers via the website or their LinkedIn profiles, or me and the rest of the marketing team, definitely on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Well, thanks a lot for your time. It was a great chat.
You're welcome.